Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon, a chilly one in the capital city. We've got 3 hours of 580 Sports Talk coming your way this afternoon on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com and streaming on video on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. I'm Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is here. Brendan Dworzinski is off for the week. We have got 3 hours of sports talk with Super Bowl 59 4 days away between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. We will have plenty more to say. You think we've talked about every possible angle, covered every possible storyline? Wrong. We got plenty of football to get to on today's program. We will be talking about Super Bowl 59. Going to get a participation report here in a little bit. Jalen Carter under the weather today for the Eagles. Maybe didn't get out on the practice field. We don't know yet. We'll certainly find out. But there's illness for. I'll go ahead and call him the best defensive player for the Eagles. That could potentially show up on the participation report today. Chiefs, of course, coming in healthy to Super Bowl 59 as they pursue the historic three-peat in New Orleans at the Superdome. We got football to talk about on the show today. And I am told, live radio, I think my car alarm is going off. So let me see if I can. Is it done? Is it still going? Somebody's going to have to come back and tell me. Am I good? We're good. Okay. Spencer assures me that we're good. So apparently I sat down. I turned on my car alarm. I hit the panic button on my keys. So that's great. That's great live radio. Appreciate you guys hanging with me through that. Anyway, lots of Chiefs topics to get to today. We're going to talk about the one element of the game that all of our guests so far, we talked to, of course, our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, on Monday's show, and we had Jesse Newell from the Kansas City Star join us on yesterday's program. And what we're hearing is that the pass rush is going to decide Super Bowl 59. Matt Verderame has said plainly, he thinks if the Eagles can't get pass rush with their front four, they're not going to win. They don't have a chance. So what I want to look at, how is each team going to try and put pressure on the opposing quarterback? Because I do think it will be defining not just for the Eagles, but for the Chiefs as well. And it typically is the pass rush and the timely blitzes that the Chiefs deploy is seemingly always something that makes a difference for the Chiefs in these big games. You can think back to important and impactful moments of just about every big Chiefs win, every big Chiefs playoff win, and you can think of a blitz or a sack in the fourth quarter that helped to seal the game or turn the tide. And it's usually Chris Jones. Or, I guess, lately, Super Bowl 58, was Trent McDuffie's well-timed blitz, and in the AFC Championship game was a well-timed blitz, by Trent McDuffie. So, the ability of the Chiefs to create pressure will be important, just as the ability of the Eagles to create pressure will be important. And we'll talk about in which ways each team is going to try to generate that pressure. Also, we do a lot of legacy talk in and out of these Super Bowls. That's just the way it is, right? Like, these are the games that define how you are remembered as a player, as a coach, as a team. Obviously, winning a third straight Super Bowl, an unprecedented feat, would put the Chiefs, I think, head and shoulders ahead of any other Super Bowl era dynasty in history. I also will argue in a little bit that it would make Andy Reid the greatest coach in NFL history. I think he would surpass Bill Belichick, and I will explain why I believe he will surpass Bill Belichick as the greatest coach in NFL history with a three-peat. Also, which Chiefs can benefit from a big Super Bowl? And that's not just legacy talk, because that part of the equation is obvious when you're talking about the opportunity to do something unprecedented. And it takes, obviously, not just Andy Reid, but Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, I think, as well, to unprecedented heights. Travis might even say new heights as all-time greats in their respective field at their respective position. But who are some guys for the Chiefs who could maybe benefit financially long-term from a stellar performance on Sunday? We'll talk about a few of those guys as we go forward. Going to talk some hoops today as well. I stayed up late to watch K-State, Arizona State, so you didn't have to. That game was an assault on the senses. And you know exactly what I mean if you watched any of K-State's 71-70 victory over Arizona State last night. I don't know why the NFL got involved and decided it needed to be color rush night at Desert Financial Arena, but I turned on that game. K-State was wearing their purplest purple, and Arizona State had their yellowest yellow, and it almost blew out my HD tuner. It was not just an assault on the visual senses. It was also an assault on the eardrums. One of the worst broadcasts I've ever heard that had technical issues that made all of us maybe briefly think we'd come down with tinnitus or tinnitus. I'm not actually sure how you pronounce that. Is it tinnitus or is it tinnitus? If anybody can help, text the show, 785-272-9429. Anyway, whatever you pronounce it, that's what it felt like I had with some of the audio issues on last night's ESPN broadcast. More stellar work from the folks at ESPN Plus. Look, I try to defend the product. I do. It's still easy money for me to spend with all of the programming and everything I get on ESPN Plus, all the great writing on the website, all that. But man, these ESPN Plus only broadcasts, they can be a little wonky. And last night's was a little wonky. And also, it was an extremely weird game. If you turn it on late, 7 minutes into the game, you didn't miss a basket from K-State. You could have missed the first 7 minutes and not miss K-State score a point. They were down 18-2, and they won. They almost blew a 13-point second half lead, but they won, and that's the important thing. As Andy Reid would say, winning is the important part. And I haven't even gotten to the funniest part of the night, a part that I'm still chuckling about throughout today. Who in the hell is the armadillo assassin? If you were watching last night, you know what I'm referring to. But we're going to have some fun talking about that K-State game because in the end, all of the weirdness, the loud colors, the awful broadcast, K-State won that basketball game. And that's now 4 straight. They're a game under 500 in the conference, and they're keeping that momentum moving forward with the Sunflower Showdown in Bramlage coming up on Saturday. We'll also get Tim Fitzgerald's thoughts on that game as Fitz joins us for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com will join us as he does every Wednesday at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll talk to Tim about the rebirth of the K-State men's team this season. Also, a huge women's game tonight. We're going to get there a little bit later on in the show, too. The number 12 Wildcat women taking on number 9 TCU at Bramlage tonight. Gave away some tickets yesterday. I may or may not have come into the possession of some more K-State women's basketball tickets for tonight. I know it's a 6:30 tip, kind of a quick turnaround, and the roads are slick, so maybe, not everybody can make it out, but I have come into possession of 4 more tickets, and I'm going to see if I can get those out to somebody before we're done here today. So be listening for your cue to call. We'll get Fitz's thoughts on that, the K-State football schedule. Today was National Signing Day. Nothing really happened that you weren't expecting to happen as far as K-State goes on that today. But all things Wildcats with Tim Fitzgerald coming up at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Plus everything else you've come to know and love from an edition of 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday. We'll play around a One Gotta Go. Have our 580 Sports Talk headlines in the 5 o'clock hour. What is wrong with you? Sponsored by Ryan Mowinkle and Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services. That's coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Plus your interaction with the program today. Want to hear your thoughts? You can text the show, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Also, if you are watching the show on YouTube live right now, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, why not jump in the live chat? The water's fine. Everybody's friendly. It's a good time. The live chat on the YouTube stream can be accessed whether you're watching in your web browser or on the mobile app. Again, the YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. A hearty hello and welcome to Mark H. and Vance. Tyler's in. The Gilliland family are in as well this afternoon already. Look forward to hearing from you all and the rest of you on the YouTube live chat as we go along today. All right, let's talk pass rush because I do kind of think this is going to decide the game on Sunday, or I think that we have heard from our guests that it is going to be imperative, particularly for the Eagles, to have an edge in the pass rush on both sides of the ball if they are going to deny the Chiefs a three-peat. So I thought I'd look at how both teams plan to solve that problem. How do you get pressure on the other team's quarterback? How do you disrupt the other team's offense in that fashion? As far as the Eagles go, look, Patrick Mahomes is unblitzable, right? Like, we know that. We've seen the numbers to back it up. We've seen the performances that back it up. If you blitz Patrick Mahomes, you were signing your own death warrant. We talked on yesterday's show about Mahomes being 8-0, really 7-0. I can't really count the game where he left with a dislocated knee, but perfect in his career in a decent sample size, a half a regular season's worth of a sample size against Vic Fangio defenses. The last time Mahomes faced a Fangio defense was in last year's wild card round. Fangio is the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins. And obviously the Chiefs won that game pretty handily. You remember the Miami defense was just about threadbare by the time January rolled along. They were signing guys off the street to come in and play defensive end in that game. I think Justin Houston, I know for a fact, played in that game for the Dolphins. It's a great immaculate grid answer, by the way. If you get like Dolphins, Chiefs, yeah, Justin Houston. I think they signed Bruce Irvin off the street as well, veteran, former Super Bowl champ with the Seahawks. They were running low on bodies in that game. Mahomes still torched them. But I saw this stat from Ted Wynn at The Athletic in a piece he wrote today. Last year, Fangio's defense in the wildcard game blitzed Mahomes on 28% of dropbacks. And the reason that that's notable is that was more than double the season average blitz rate for that Dolphins defense. And now some of that was, again, born out of necessity because you were running Justin Houston and Bruce Irvin out there in a playoff game in January of 2024. But it also spoke to something that Vic Fangio is prone to do. And it is the same thing that I was prone to do when I was playing a lot of the Madden video game back in my teens, my early teens. You know, if the computer's beating you or your buddy's beating you and you can't figure out how to stop them, and then you get kind of mad, you get frustrated, you give up a third down or you give up a scoring drive, and then you got to go back on defense. And so you just start calling, I believe the play was called Engage 8. You just start calling zero blitzes. You start hammering blitz. Every play you're blitzing, cover zero, all that good stuff. The emotional blitz is how I like to refer to it. Vic Fangio is as prone as any great defensive coordinator to the emotional blitz. If his front four isn't getting home, he'll call Engage 8. He'll start blitzing at an uncharacteristic rate. Like, yes, a 12-year-old on Mountain Dew Code Red. Do kids still drink Mountain Dew Code Red? I still drink Mountain Dew Code. I think it's delicious. A 12-year-old, 13-year-old eating Cheetos, got Cheeto dust all over his Xbox controller, playing Madden, and just blitzing because you feel like blitzing because you're mad. The emotional blitz. Vic Fangio will call some emotional blitzes. If the Eagles start sending a lot more blitzes in the second half, like 5-6-man pressures, that's a good sign. If that starts happening, if you're a Chiefs fan, you can start to feel pretty good about the Chiefs offense having success because that means, number one, 4 men aren't getting home. And number two, Mahomes gets to operate against the blitz where he's awesome. So the Eagles have to win with 4, which means Jalen Carter and Trey Smith is an immense matchup. Trey Smith has to win that matchup one-on-one. Milton Williams is the other interior pass rusher that the Eagles have. And you may not know that name unless you're a real ball knower, diehard, eat the tape kind of fan. Milton Williams has been excellent this year. We've talked about how Chris Jones has felt unblockable this season, and he has played that way most of the time. A pass rush win rate of nearly 14% this year, which is immense. One of the best, maybe the best among defensive tackles. Milton Williams not far behind. Just a percentage lower, 1% lower on his pass rush win rate than Chris Jones. So he's really good. And he's going to get some one-on-ones potentially with Mike Caliendo. And Caliendo has to win that matchup. I actually think the Chiefs will be okay against the Eagles' edge rushers. Joe Thuney's handled his business fine. Juwan Taylor versus Nolan Smith is an interesting matchup because Smith is a really good edge rusher, really good speed rusher, and sometimes Juwan Taylor has his hands full a bit with those. If that causes a hold or a false start, that could blow up a drive. But I also think in the end, Mahomes is going to continue to do the thing he's done all season long, and that's get the ball out quick. And then I think he's going to do something that he's typically done against Vic Fangio defenses and that he's typically done in the postseason, and that is run. In 4 of his 7 complete games against Fangio defenses, Mahomes has run the ball for at least 27 yards. And we all know he's more willing to do that in postseason games. So I really do think that it sets up for the Chiefs to negate the Eagles' pass rush. And if Vic Fangio gets to a point where he starts sending some emotional blitzes in the second half, cackle with knowing glee, Chiefs fans, because I think that's going to be a really good sign for A, how well the game is going, and B, how well the game is going to continue to go. Because blitzing Mahomes is, again, signing your own death warrant. The opposite, of course, is true from the other perspective, because the Chiefs are going to blitz. Steve Spagnuolo is going to blitz. He's going to blitz from all angles. He's going to blitz creatively, and he's going to save the best stuff for the closing stages. Jalen Hurts is not a great quarterback against the blitz. And opponents know that he is not a great quarterback against the blitz because there were only 6 quarterbacks who played enough snaps to qualify that were blitzed more often as a percentage of dropbacks than Jalen Hurts was this season. And no quarterback was sacked more often when blitzed than Jalen Hurts. He has a tendency to eat the ball, take a sack. It's not what you want, but that's a tendency that Hurts has relative to his fellow quarterbacks in the league. It doesn't square with the image we have of Jalen Hurts, right? Like we think of Hurts, we think of him as able with his legs, fast, but he's been dealing with a knee problem this season. If you've watched him run, he had some 40-yard touchdown run earlier in the playoffs. He had a long touchdown run. I don't remember what game that was, but he had a long touchdown run. I think it was a Rams game. It was a divisional round game. But even if you watch or have watched Hurts run in the playoffs this year, he doesn't look like his 2023 self running. He looks a little bit like he's a step slower, which Jalen Hurts a step slower, still faster than 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers. He still got some athleticism. You don't want to give up a splash play on the ground to Jalen Hurts, and he certainly still got some capability, but he is not a great scrambler. He never really has been great at taking a broken play and making something out of it. Design runs, Jalen Hurts, dangerous. As a scrambler, he leaves a little to be desired, particularly given what you would expect. And so teams know this, and they're not afraid to send pressure after him, and a lot of times that pressure busts the Eagles' pipes. Here's another thing that I think is interesting when it comes to talking about Hurts versus Steve Spagnuolo. We all remember the Super Bowl 57. I can't get it out of my head when thinking about this game because that was the magnum opus to this point of Jalen Hurts' NFL career. He was magnificent in that game. 304 yards through the air, 70 yards on the ground. He was so good. And I will never give up on the idea just big picture that quarterback is in Jalen Hurts, that he can be that guy. They can be that guy for a whole season. That guy for 17 weeks, that would win an MVP. He was so good in that Super Bowl. You remember that. But do you remember what happened last season in the regular season at Arrowhead Stadium? Obviously, different circumstances. Regular season game, road game, night game. I think it was Monday Night Football. Home crowd, obviously, making an impact at Arrowhead Stadium. But in that game, Steve Spagnuolo had Jalen Hurts in a box. The Chiefs sacked him 5 times, and they allowed just 124 net passing yards. Pass yards minus sack yards. It was the 5th worst game in terms of dropback success rate of the entire career of Jalen Hurts. So whatever Steve Spagnuolo saw on tape in the Super Bowl, he was a little more ready for Jalen Hurts in the passing game and certainly as a runner, as a scramble threat the second time around. Will that hold a third time? We'll see. But I do think that for the Chiefs, scheme is going to be pretty important. And the way that they scheme pressure for Hurts will be vital in making sure you make the most of the third down opportunities. Because you've got to win on third down, because what you don't want to do is end up in 4th and short, because that's an auto go for it with the tush-push situation. And then you're on the field and you're basically defending 10 yards for 4 plays and not 10 yards for 3. So you've got to win on third down. And win on third down doesn't look like, keeping them a yard short, because they're going to go for it. Winning on third down means forcing an incomplete pass. Winning on third down means stopping them 3-4 yards shy of the sticks, not 1. So you're going to have to win on third down. I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs are a little bit more aggressive with the pass rush, with some blitzes early in the game relative to normal. And then, of course, the second half of the close games is when Spags starts foaming at the mouth and sending blitzes that you've never seen and nobody's ever conceived of before. And that's when I think you'll see that kind of pressure make the biggest impact. At the end of the day, we talk about the dichotomy between the cliche phrases. You've got X's and O's, and you've got Jimmys and Joes. I think, just like I thought 2 years ago, the Eagles might have a Jimmys and Joes edge. Like they might have more good players than the Chiefs do. They really might. They might be a more talented roster than the Chiefs. They're really good up front, both ways. If you wanted to tell me that the Eagles have a better offensive line than the Chiefs, I would agree with you. If you would have said the Eagles have a better defensive line than the Chiefs, I'd push back a little bit more, but I'd hear you out. So I think the Eagles have more Jimmys and Joes, and that means the Chiefs have to win the X's and O's battle. And they have to do it on both sides, and having the best Jimmy and or Joe on the field at the most important position, that never hurts. We're going to take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side of this break, does Andy Reid have a GOAT argument if he wins and hoists that Lombardi trophy on Sunday? I think he does. We're going to make it next. You're listening to 580 Sports Talk, 580 WIBW. 3:32. We are just getting started on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis hanging out with you until 6 o'clock. Which point we'll hand it off to K-State women's basketball. Huge one tonight at the Octagon. Number 12 K-State, number 9 TCU in Big 12 play. Tip-off set for 6:30. Pregame again starting when we're done, 6 o'clock here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9. If the Chiefs win on Sunday, and anybody who has asked me to this point, we'll share our official predictions on Friday. Love to hear yours, 785-272-9429. Put them in the YouTube live chat. Anybody who has asked me, I have told them I believe the Chiefs are going to win. I'm not ready to put down a score prediction or anything like that, but I am telling people that I think the Chiefs are going to win because they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid as their coach. And the other team has Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni as their coach. And maybe it is all just that simple. And we're all just blowing out complicated airflow for the next 4 days, killing time before we see the game Sunday night in New Orleans. But if the Chiefs win on Sunday, I'm ready to put Andy Reid ahead of Bill Belichick and say he's the GOAT, say he's the greatest coach of all time. And this is how I construct the argument. Andy Reid would have a higher regular season winning percentage than Bill Belichick, 651 all time to 647. He would have done something that Bill Belichick never accomplished, win 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Certainly Belichick came close, but won 3 and 4, won back-to-back. Never won 3 in a row. That would be something that Reid would have that Belichick would not. And Reid would have the ability to say in his favor, I won with a bunch of different guys at quarterback. Yeah, I won big with the best quarterback ever. But I got to a Super Bowl with Donovan McNabb. And Donovan McNabb, all due respect, that's a borderline Hall of Very Good guy, as far as I'm concerned. We're not even talking Hall of Fame with Donovan McNabb. We're talking Hall of Very Good. And even then, Donovan McNabb is like borderline Hall of Very Good.
Yeah. Do you know where he went in the twilight of his career? To where all good players go to die.
Yeah, he went to Washington.
Yeah.
He very good career. Very good career. But, yeah, Andy Reid took him to a Super Bowl. And Andy Reid went to conference championship games with lesser quarterbacks. Belichick's success is tied to Tom Brady so inextricably that if you wanted to argue that Andy Reid gets credit for having been as successful as he was when he had a quarterback who was not of that caliber, then I would have to hear you out. I would make that argument in Andy Reid's favor. Also, no major cheating scandals. There's no Spygate with Andy Reid's teams over the years. There's no.
To me, I think that's the biggest part. There's no blemishes. There's nothing on there that says blemish. This should not. There's no inkling of doubt.
Asterisk.
Yes, there's nothing there that says, maybe we shouldn't have won this because we didn't do this legally.
No, yeah, buts.
Yeah.
With Reid and his legacy, he'd be the last guy Andy would to state his own case. Like that's not how he gets down. That's not really his get down at all. But I would say Andy Reid would be the greatest coach of all time with another Super Bowl win. That would give him obviously 4 rings. All of them with the same team. It would have given him 6 appearances in the Super Bowl. Belichick, of course, has more than that. He's still got more playoff wins than Reid. He's got 31 playoff wins all time, does Belichick. Reid's the active leader, and he's got, I'm digging for the number, 28 playoff wins. So, like, they go, they win this one, they get back to the Super Bowl next year, he'll have tied Belichick.
I would also say that Andy Reid is more, not personable, but he's more like, maybe personable is the right one, or he knows when to be serious, but then when to not. Like,
there is no denying he is a much more likable coach.
I mean, like, heck, today or yesterday, he was asked, at the end of his media availability about the SI swimsuit, and he made a joke about him being the guy, and then he got up and left. Like,
I think there's also something to be said for Reid's coaching tree having been more successful than Belichick's coaching tree.
Belichick's coaching tree seems to have to come back to him.
Yes, like Matt
hey,
Patricia,
we didn't do well.
Josh
Let's come
McDaniels,
back.
Romeo Crennel. Like, there are some misses here. Like, Brad Childress wasn't a particularly great head coach in Minnesota, though I think he's remembered differently if Favre doesn't throw that terrible pick in the conference championship game. Pat Shurmur was not a particularly great NFL head coach. Brendan's not here, but we could ask him what he thinks of Todd Bowles. But also on Andy Reid's head coaching tree, Sean McDermott, pretty good coach. Doug Peterson, Super Bowl champion. John Harbaugh, Super Bowl champion. Ron Rivera, very well regarded, went to a Super Bowl. So, it's some big hits on the coaching tree as well. And if you want to put D'Amico Ryans on Andy Reid's coaching tree because he played for Andy Reid, I'd give that one to you as well. So I do. I think there is a compelling argument to make that though Reid's championships are inextricably tied to Patrick Mahomes, to one player, Bill Belichick's entire track record of success, there is no success for Bill Belichick without Tom Brady.
Yes, and I think we saw that his last couple of seasons in New England. And I think it totally showed that he needed the quarterback that was Tom Brady in order for them to do what they did. And Brady showed it the other way. He went down to Tampa and won a Super Bowl. And Belichick had, 8 wins after he left? Something like that?
He left.
After Tom left, how many wins did he have?
Let's see here. So he his last game with the Patriots was 2019.
Yes.
They went 7-9, 10-7, 8-9, and 4-13. And before Tom Brady, Belichick's teams went 6-10, 7-9, 7-9, 11-5, 5-11, 5-11.
Yeah. So clearly.
Meanwhile, I mean, look, Andy Reid's last year in Philadelphia wasn't very good. They went 4-12, but that is one of 3 losing seasons in Andy Reid's career. The first one was his first year, and the other was 2005, a year that came after they went to the Super Bowl. I think McNabb got hurt in 05. I think is what happened there. Is that the year he broke his ankle? Or no, that was the Terrell Owens blows everything up year. That was what that was. That was the downside of having Terrell Owens as your best player. Was 2005. So no, that's my argument. Success outside of having the greatest quarterback ever, and a better winning percentage. He's going to catch Belichick in playoff wins eventually. The take will be unquestionable if he passes Belichick in all-time wins and playoff wins. But why not be an early adopter? If he wins on Sunday, he's the greatest coach of all time. Yeah. Take another break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, we'll play a quick round of One Gotta Go. That's coming up here on 580 WIBW.
Anytime, write your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code LOT for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code LOT for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
WIBW, Topeka.
I'm so sick of these people. You know.
You all interested? Bye.
You're ugly. You're disgusting. I'm going to kill you. Give me two of you.
Well, gotta go.
It's one gotta go time on 580 Sports Talk. We were talking about Andy Reid. So let's go back to his Eagles days. I give you one of these four great Eagles skill players from Andy Reid's time as the Eagles head coach. This is a little different than one gotta go. You're not getting rid of one. You can only have one of these four outstanding skill players from Reid's time in Philadelphia. Brian Westbrook, Deshaun Jackson, Shady McCoy, Terrell Owens. You can have one of them to put on this Chiefs team for Super Bowl Sunday. Who would it be?
Brian Westbrook.
Interesting. Why Westbrook?
Because I loved the way he was playing right when I first got into like a lot of football, and seeing him twice a year when they played the then Redskins, obviously, I loved his game. I loved watching him play, what he could do out of the backfield, what he could do running the ball. I loved his game. He was one of my favorite players that played in a divisional foe.
So the funny thing, and I only recently stopped doing this myself, but when you thought about Andy Reid for so long and you thought about Andy Reid's offense, the prototype running back you thought about was Brian Westbrook. Like, I remember when they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I'm pretty sure that I got behind this microphone or one of the microphones in this studio and said something to the effect of, he could be like Brian Westbrook. He's a Brian Westbrook type of player. Every time the Chiefs got a running back, I bet I did it when they drafted Kareem Hunt. I would almost guarantee that was a comparison I made, and I would almost also guarantee that I was not the only one to make that comparison. The idea of Brian Westbrook, a pass-catching running back, somebody who, yes, was effective as a runner, who could carry at his best for over 5 yards per rush, but was also such a threat in the receiving game. He caught 90 passes in a season back in 2007. That year, he led the league in yards from scrimmage and was a first-team All-Pro. And so this idea of, oh, yeah, he's going to be the feature back, but also he's going to catch a bunch of passes. That player doesn't exist really in the league anymore. It's like Christian McCaffrey was being used in that fashion. But there aren't that many running backs in the league anymore who are featured backs and featured in the passing game the way that Westbrook was. Like, Austin Eckler, kind of, but that was more because the Chargers had a really unimaginative offense and they made Justin Herbert throw a lot of checkdowns. Like, that player doesn't exist anymore. And it took me a long time to kind of realize with Andy Reid's offense, like, they're not looking for a Brian Westbrook anymore. Like, that's because that player doesn't really exist. It's not the way running backs are used anymore in the NFL.
That's crazy that he had 1,333 rushing yards and 771 receiving yards in one season.
Yeah, he was.
That's 2,000 plus all-purpose yards.
He was quite a player. That being said, the correct answer is Terrell Owens. I mean, are you kidding me? Like, Terrell Owens is probably a top 5 receiver in the history of the NFL.
I don't like Terrell Owens.
Nobody likes Terrell Owens, but he was awesome. Like, a big-bodied wide receiver who could always get open. Can you imagine Patrick Mahomes throwing to a guy that good? Like, the one time he got to throw to a wide receiver anywhere near that good, Tyreek Hill's going to Canton one day because of Patrick Mahomes. Terrell Owens in this offense, like, oh my God, it would have been unbelievable to have seen that. So that's my answer. Vance in the YouTube comments agrees with me, says T.O. would be the pick. Mark with the vote for Shady McCoy. We saw late career Shady as a Chief, of course. He popped up as a member of the Chiefs back in 2019 and, like, wasn't bad. He got a Super Bowl ring out of the deal. I would also say that he drove people crazy because he never secured the football to his body. He was always carrying the ball like like you would say, like a loaf of bread. But he was the second leading rusher on that team. Rushed for 465 yards, 4 touchdowns, and also caught 28 passes.
Yeah.
Maybe he was the Brian Westbrook all along. Do you have a one got to go today?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Super Bowl Sunday, obviously, coming up here, and eats are a lot of the talk. If you could choose one dip to have at every Super Bowl party you have left,
Okay.
like every Super Bowl gathering, every time you watch the Super Bowl, you can only have
I
this
only
one.
get one. Okay.
Yes, you only get one for the rest of the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Buffalo chicken dip,
Uh-huh.
avocado guac.
Sure.
Shoot, what was my other one? Oh, spinach artichoke dip, and then like a queso.
Okay. So,
You can only have one of those for the rest of your life
all right.
at a Super Bowl or football watch party.
So if this was a traditional one got to go, it would be an easy call. Spinach artichoke dip would be out of here. I don't dislike it. I think it's quite good in context, but a Super Bowl party to me is not the context for it.
Yeah.
I'm out on buffalo chicken dip. So
Why
that
is that?
leaves. I like the I like queso and guacamole better. Man, queso's a crowd pleaser. Guaco's good on a lot of things. I only get I can never have the other one at a Super Bowl party
Nope.
again.
No.
Man. Yeah, I guess I go with queso. I go with queso. It had to be good though. Like chunks of like chorizo in it. Like I get like a really good queso. Not
like
like
chili con queso.
yeah, don't throw like a brick of Velveeta in the crock pot for 6 hours with nothing else in it and tell me that's queso. Don't do that to me. That offends my sensibilities.
Mine would be buffalo chicken dip. I love it so much.
No, that's good stuff. No doubt. That would be a tough one to say goodbye to. Hopefully
Yeah.
I could have it at like the conference championship game. If you're saying I can only have one for every Super Bowl ever, maybe I'll work in those others, the other rounds of the playoffs. Make sure I get my share there. We got a vote in for the 785 and the text line for a white cheese queso, white queso. That's my wife's favorite. My wife likes a white queso more so than the yellow queso. I can go either way personally, but yeah, I think that would be the one I would go with. That's a tough cut for guacamole because that can be really hit or miss. Like you buy the avocado and then it's like, well, if you don't do it within like the 27 minutes that the avocado is ripe, you get brown guacamole.
Yeah, like if you can't, it's not one of those ones you could leave out
Like,
for like a couple hours.
You
gotta
bought your avocados and now you have to make the guacamole between the hours of 2 and 3. It's like waiting for the cable guy to show up. You have to make your guac between the hours of 2 and 3 a.m. on Saturday. Otherwise, the avocado will go bad. It'll be mushy and inedible. That's the only trick with guacamole. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up this first hour of 580 Sports Talk right after this. 354 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Spencer hanging out with you this afternoon. We're with you until 6 o'clock. Hope you will continue to hang out with us for the next 2 hours of the show. Lots more to come on the program today. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to talk some K-State basketball. They beat Arizona State last night, 71-70. If you stayed up late and your eyes withstood the color rush uniform matchup and your ears withstood the assault from Pete Souza and Scott Williams last night, you were rewarded, if you were a Cats fan, by a road win. All of a sudden, this K-State team, after not winning a road game for a calendar year, they're road warriors. Back-to-back road wins for K-State, 4 straight wins overall going into the Sunflower Showdown. We will talk about all of the stuff, the good, the bad, and the broadcast from last night's game between the Wildcats and the Sun Devils. Also coming up, Tim Fitzgerald will join us, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll GoPowerCat.com for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. We get Fitz's thoughts on that K-State win, big K-State women's game tonight, K-State's football schedule, which was released yesterday, and whatever else comes to mind. You know that with Fitz, things can get a little unpredictable. So we'll look forward to having Tim Fitzgerald on bottom of the 4 o'clock hour on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Also coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, What is Wrong with You? Sponsored by Ryan Mowinkle and Mowinkle Insurance and Financial Services. Do you say insurance or insurance?
Insurance?
Insurance. Okay. Yeah. Some people say insurance.
Insurance.
I got that stuck in my head. If you played MLB The Show for any length of time, I believe it was 2 years ago, there was a ongoing riff that would play all the time between John Shambi and I don't even remember. I didn't buy last year's version of the show. I was busy having
good insurance runs, right? Like
yeah,
something.
they say something like insurance, or as they say down south, insurance. So now I'm not able to unhear that when I hear the word, and now I've started saying insurance. Started emphasizing the word, the in part.
Car insurance.
Car insurance.
I don't know. I didn't notice there's a difference in the way I said it.
There's really not, but
Yeah.
I get stuck in my brain and I can't get it out. So
I'm glad I didn't have to listen to Pete Souza last night.
Oh, just wait. You just wait.
But I saw the armadillo shooter thing, and I saw somebody put a meme on.
We're gonna talk.
X.
We're gonna talk all about that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Right now, though, as we go to break, the phone number is 785-272-9429. And if you can make it to Bramlage by 6:30 tonight, I want to set you up with 4 tickets. They're not for sale. They're sold out. 4 tickets to see K-State TCU women's basketball tonight at Bramlage. If you can get there by 6:30 and you're caller number 3 to 785-272-9429, I'm going to set you up. 785-272-9429 is the number. 4 tickets to K-State versus TCU tonight. Lots of Wildcat talk coming up at the 4 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk.
programs designed for cultural enrichment. Learn more at Viking.com.
Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask O'Reilly Veriscan today.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention, which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and a scale to deliver when and where you need them, the right tools and supplies are never far away, so the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call Grainger.com or just online. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Here's your updated forecast on 580 WIBW. High temperature reach up to 36 this afternoon under overcast skies with a slight chance of mixed precipitation, changing to all rain. Southeasterly winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Overcast skies with fog in spots. Night lows dip down to about 30. Clear skies tomorrow. High level off around 46. Meteorologist Ray Miller in the Capital Federal Weather Center. Right now, 33.
The Voice of Kansas, online at 580WIBW.com.
Let's get it. It's hour number 2 of a hump day edition of 580 Sports Talk. 4 days away from Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans between the Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. You'll catch it just like you're catching 580 Sports Talk right now on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. A special hello to those of us watching, or those of you, not those of us. Although I am looking at the screen that has the video on it right now.
Yeah.
Those of us / those of you watching the show live on our video stream right now. Our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. We're on Facebook too, and WIBW News. That's Spencer Dupuis. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Wrzinski is off for the week. We have got lots of K-State to talk about this hour. K-State basketball scoring a win last night. Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us bottom of this hour from GoPowerCat.com. Get his takes on that win and all other things EMAW related. Now, what is wrong with you coming up bottom of this hour as well. Your comments are welcome. We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching the show live on YouTube, one of the fun things about doing that is you can engage in the live chat and interact with your hosts and your fellow listeners throughout the program. You can, again, watch the show on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, live and archived. So a hello to folks in the future who might be watching this show maybe later this evening, maybe tomorrow morning, whenever it is that you're catching up with the show on the video stream, 580 Sports Talk. But if you're watching live, jump in the live chat on the web browser or the mobile app. You can also leave us a comment if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News, or you can text the program, 785-272-9429. Speaking of that number, 785-272-9429, had a bit of a technical snafu, bit embarrassing, but we think we've got it ironed out. But it kept us from giving away those tickets that we wanted to give away there at the bottom of the hour. I have 4 general admission tickets to the K-State game tonight against TCU. And I know it's a short turnaround. Ended up with these 4 earlier this afternoon. Wanted to make sure that somebody, if you can go tonight, which again, it's a 6:30 tip. Some of you might be listening and say, dang, I already got plans. Dang, I can't go. Dang, that's too bad. And I feel bad for you. But hey, if you can go tonight to the K-State game, I want you to text the show with your name. First and last initial is fine. 785-272-9429. And the first person to text with your first name, last initial, and tell me you can go to the K-State women's game tonight, I will text you the tickets. That's how we'll do it. We'll get those 4 tickets in somebody's hand for tonight's game. So if you want them, text the show, 785-272-9429, and you and 3 of your friends, 3 family members, or 3 random people you meet on your way to Manhattan. Not here to judge. But looks like we got a text in, so we've got a winner. So thank you for listening. Thank you for texting. But we do have a winner already there. That was fast. I knew it would be. It's a big game tonight. Number 12 versus number 9. Huge game. Top 2 teams, ranked teams anyway, in the Big 12. We'll talk more about that a little bit later on in the show as well. So last night, K-State defeated Arizona State in Big 12 play, 71-70. That was the final score, 71-70. Kansas State wins a game where they did not score for the first 7 minutes. They fell behind 15-0. I remember distinctly. My wife was pretty worn out. My wife is a teacher, and the first work day of every week, and they had Monday off. So first work day of every week is always the night that she is the most tired. Also, we have an 8-month-old at the house, so we're always tired. Default setting is tired. So my wife went to bed early. And I remember saying goodnight to her and telling her, yeah, I might be joining you pretty quick the way this game is going. I did not foresee what would eventually end up happening as K-State would ultimately fall behind by 16 in the first half. It was 18-2. And then the shots started falling, and then Arizona State just kept shooting threes. Never mind that they weren't going in. They just kept shooting 3 after 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. And K-State reeled them back in, actually led at halftime, built a 13-point lead, and then that got away because K-State started turning the ball over, getting a little sloppy on offense, and Arizona State led in the late stages before K-State got a huge shot from Coleman Hawkins with a minute and a half to go. 2 big free throws by David Gasson, and then Arizona State's Jaden Quaintance, who is, I believe it was mentioned about 1,000 times on last night's broadcast. He is 17 years old, in case you missed that. During the ESPN Plus TV broadcast last night. Jaden Quaintance only 17 years old, guys. And just in case you weren't clear on that, just in case Pete Souza saying it a billion times didn't clear it up. Jaden Quaintance missed 2 free throws with 4 seconds left. K-State got the rebound, smartly threw the ball down the court to run out the rest of the clock, and survived with a 1-point victory. As Mark points out in the YouTube live chat, Mark H., thanks for being with us. I picked Arizona State to see if I had reverse jinx power after picking Iowa State to win at K-State Monday night. And apparently I do. I'm 2-0 on that. So strongly considering picking the Eagles on Friday's 580 Sports Talk for Super Bowl 59. We'll let you know how that goes. But I must have the magic touch, the Midas touch, except the opposite for college hoops this week. We'll get to the game stuff, because there is stuff to talk about from the game, but the entire night felt like I was hallucinating. I have never watched a basketball game and been more convinced I was in a fever dream than watching that game last night. An online-only broadcast, 2 teams wearing the brightest colored uniforms that they owned. A buddy of mine, I was talking about it, the color rush uniform matchup last night. They said it was bad because that K-State wasn't wearing the lavenders. And I said, can you imagine the lavenders on that against that yellow? That would have clashed. At least purple and yellow kind of like look good together. Like, that some teams, those are their colors. The Vikings, the old Los Angeles Kings. The oppressive brightness of the uniforms and the court at Desert Financial Arena. And then
you got that one this time.
Yes, I did. Yes, named after a credit union arena. And then the broadcast. Look, I don't know why Pete Souza gets the announcing assignments that he does. He gets a lot of Big 12 games. He gets a lot of ESPN Plus games. It's an unpleasant listen every single time. I don't know, Pete. I'm sure he's a pleasant enough guy. You have to be to get anywhere in this industry. I'm sure he might even be a great hang. I can't do it as a play-by-play guy. It is not good. And Scotty Williams as his color analyst doing like weird sing-songy delivery at some points during the broadcast that I didn't fully comprehend or understand. The audio equipment gave out at one point in the first half. There was this weird high-pitched tinny feedback you kept hearing, and eventually they just cut off the broadcast audio for a little while, which that was the best part of the whole game, was when I couldn't hear Souza and Williams. But the best part of the night, so Brendan Hawson really got going for K-State in the second half. He knocked down 4 3-pointers, finished tonight with 12 points, all of them coming behind the arc. And you may be aware, if you are a Kansas State fan, that Brendan Hawson is from Amarillo, Texas. And he is the all-time leading scorer in Amarillo High School history. Amarillo Assassin. That's a very cool nickname. We don't do cool nicknames anymore. Like, normally nicknames are just like B-House. Like, it's amazing that we don't just call him B-Hoss or something like that. We just call everybody by their initials or some sort of shortened or cutesy EY version of their last name. Like, Coleman Hawkins is probably just Hawk. Seahawk, something like that. We don't do cool nicknames anymore. The Amarillo Assassin is a cool nickname. You know what might be a cooler nickname? The one Pete Souza accidentally gave him the entire second half. I'm sitting there and listening.
I didn't watch this, but I know it. And it's the power of social media. I'm
listening to the broadcast, and he hits his first 3, and I'm sitting there like, Pete Souza didn't just call him the Armadillo Assassin, did he? That can't be right. Slip of the tongue. Ha, that's funny. Then he did it again and again. He did it multiple times, and it was every time Hawson shot the ball. It was like, and they call him the Armadillo Assassin. No, they don't. They have never called him that. No one has ever been called that, except for presumably a gentleman who got a little feisty with a rifle picking off some armadillos one afternoon. He kept calling him the wrong name. And then the piece de resistance, right? At the end of this terrible broadcast, K-State wins the game, and they're showing the Wildcats celebrating, and a couple of the players go into the stands where, right behind the benches, you've got some friendly home fans, parents, friends, and family seating right behind the bench. And some K-State players went in there to exchange some high fives before they went back to the locker room. And they had a shot of Brendan Hawson going through there and giving high fives. And Pete Souza says, and there's the Amarillo Assassin. He got it right just as they were fading to black on the broadcast. Finally got it right. You say you saw on social media they were already memeing this?
Yeah, on the great cesspool that is X. Yes, multiple, just an armadillo in a K-State jersey with a basketball in his hand. An armadillo with a basketball in his hand that's tall.
Apparently, Hawson got wind of it and posted something to his Snapchat. I had a chance to hear about that. I didn't see it, but I have heard that he did get wind of his new nickname, the Armadillo Assassin.
There's also a clip of the call.
You have the audio?
It's not great. It's somebody recording their TV.
Well, crank it up. See if you can play it.
All right, hold on.
See if we get some Pete Souza magic on the program today.
What? Oh.
I'm going to do it?
No, I got it.
All right, go ahead.
Here we go.
He says it with such confidence.
The Armadillo Assassin.
He was so sure that was his nickname. And then at the very end, I don't know who got him a note. So the spotter wrote him a note at the under 4. Hey, by the way, that kid you've been calling the Armadillo Assassin all night? Oh, my God, that was so fun. Honestly, that made the Pete Souza experience worthwhile.
The tweet of the night, though, would be if it's a new drinking game, Kellis Robinette. Drink every time ESPN Plus calls Brendan Hawson the Armadillo Assassin.
I would have stumbled to bed last night if that had been the case. Text from the 785 makes two very good points. Two very good points from this texter. Again, you can text the show 785-272-9429. If you're going to watch with ESPN Plus, Hall of Fame voices Wyatt Thompson, Stan Weber synced up are a must. And then says, every winning team has a rally mascot. Ours is now an armadillo with a knife. So, okay, that's a different way to look at it. Like, not someone who is assassinating armadillos, but an armadillo who is an assassin.
Hey, speaking of...
that could be the new Gap Goat.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Brendan Hawson tweeted an hour ago. Where do we buy on armadillo stuffed animals? Asking for a friend.
Yes. The women's team has rallied around the gap goat the last season and a half. We're going to get an armadillo in a K-State uniform, maybe behind the bench for the Sunflower Showdown. I need that like I need air to breathe. I need that so bad. Oh, my God, that was funny. Anyway, back to the game. The effort deserved a win, to be frank, because what we have talked about with this Kansas State team is that there is a lot that feels like it is out of reach for this team to accomplish, even with their recent run of success. Bart Torvik only gives K-State a 1.8% chance of reaching the NCAA tournament. That feels pretty far-fetched still. So there is a lot that feels out of reach for this Kansas State team. But they have played every game as though that 40 minutes is the most important 40 minutes. They have kept the main thing. And they have been extremely resilient in this stretch. We've seen them be front runners, right? The last 3 games in this stretch, like they punched West Virginia in the mouth and were up big at halftime. They punched Oklahoma State in the mouth and they were up big at halftime. They punched Iowa State in the mouth to start the second half and they were up big and were able to kind of coast to that 19-point victory. This was a game where they took the big punch. First 7 minutes, nothing was falling. And I'm watching the game. And honestly, it didn't really feel like, oh man, K-State's not up for it tonight. K-State's not, they're not playing very well. They were a little too reliant on shooting 3-pointers early. Jerome Tang pointed that out himself. But it was just a lot of missed shots. It just felt like the water was turned off. I think somebody turns on the water, maybe things will be all right. And things were all right. It's impressive to go on the road and not score for 7 minutes and fall behind by 16 and come back and win, regardless of any other circumstances that may be surrounding that, regardless of the how of it, which K-State did need Quaintance to miss both of those free throws with 4 seconds left to hang on in regulation. Regardless of that, that's still impressive. No matter the caliber of opponent you're playing, you are on the road, you are down big. The building sounded like it was kind of rocking there in Tempe last night, and K-State withstood it. They got some hot shooting. The Armadillo Assassin was lighting it up. Max Jones shot the ball extremely well. Coleman Hawkins hit some big shots. Gasson was great, as per norm now for him. He ended up with 20 points. Got their composure in the late stages, and they fell behind. I think it was about 3.5 minutes to go. Arizona State regained the lead for the first time in the second half. Scotty Williams, the one smart thing he said all night was the thing that I have been critical of Jerome Tang on many, many times. Took too long to take the timeout. Should have taken the timeout, didn't take the timeout, took too long. And K-State came out of that timeout. It was a team timeout. It ended up being the media and the under 4 timeout. And they ran really good stuff down the stretch to get buckets, to get Coleman Hawkins that look from 3 with 1.5 minutes to go. Now, they didn't run anything on their last offensive possession of the game. They continue to do the thing that drives me up a wall. Final minute, close game. All right, here's the play. Point guard, you dribble the air out of the ball for 28 seconds and then shoot from 3 with a hand in your face. On 3, ready, break. Every game, when it's close in the final minute, there's a possession where it's just one guy dribbles and shoots. There's no passing. There's no movement. Like, Marquise Noel used to make that look good because he usually made that shot. Marquise Noel is not walking through that door. Doug McDaniel's not a particularly gifted 3-point shooter. That has to change. That's the thing that's going to drive me up a wall with Jerome Tang and with K-State basketball. But they go to the other end. They very nearly get a steal. They almost get a terrible break. That was a loose ball that took a funny carom and just happened to send Jaden Quaintance on his way to the basket. But Gasson doesn't give up on the play, gives the foul. Quaintance misses both free throws. And K-State has 4 straight wins heading into the showdown. They're up to 64th in the Ken Pom rankings. They were in the 90s when this winning streak began. They're up to number 54 in the Torvik rankings. They're 11th since the Houston game. And during this winning streak, they are the number 1 ranked team by the metrics in the country. They are playing exceptionally well these last 4 games. We have a texter that asks from the 785, if they found a way to win 2 of KU, Arizona, Iowa State, and lost only one other game the rest of the way, does that do enough with a win or two in the Big 12 tournament to get them in. I don't think that the tournament matters other than winning it all gives you an automatic bid. I think we've seen enough over the last couple of years that they kind of know what the bracket's going to look like going into tournament week, and there's not much that can upset it other than a bid thief.
Auto bid.
Yeah, one of those bid thieves stealing the auto bid. But what will be interesting if we are having this conversation going into the Big 12 tournament is if K-State continues to play at this level, how much does the committee weigh current form relative to how you played in November and December? Because that'll be the question. Because K-State ends up going 12-8 in the conference, because that's what it would be. They would be 12-8 in the conference in that scenario. If they lost 2 more the rest of the way, they would finish 12-8 in the conference. I kind of thought they had to win 13 at the beginning of the conference season. I thought they had to win 13 to get into the NCAA tournament. I didn't think 12 was going to do it. But if it is 12, and they are playing, like, by the numbers, some of the best basketball in the country, if they continue to play like this, not even just number 1 in the country over the last 4, let's say they're a top 15 team in the country for the last 6-7 weeks of the regular season, by the numbers, by Torvik, by Ken Pom. That's probably a conversation. It probably is. But for that to be realistic, they got to go beat KU on Saturday. And to me, that's what this K-State team has done, is they are not playing as though they are concerned about, oh, we got to win X amount of games to get to where we want to go. They have kept the focus on the next game. They have done an extremely good job, and this coaching staff and the leaders on this team have done an extremely good job of making sure that this team remains focused on the next game, the next opportunity. Also, I've come all the way back around on Moby Ike-Garuke. I am now a fan. That dude has springs in his shoes. I don't know that I've seen a guy jump like that. He can really get up. And so he plays bigger than his 6'5" frame. And now he's starting to play with a little offensive confidence. It's kind of fun. It's kind of been fun seeing the Ike-Garuke project. And also, people on social were killing Pete Souza for this, and I got to defend him. They have changed in the game notes the pronunciation for Moby's last name. We all thought it was Ike-Garuka. It is Ike-Garuke. It is an A sound at the end. So
dang.
They've changed it in the game notes.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Also,
I thought it was funny too, because that's what I don't remember who was calling the game Saturday in Ames was saying it. And I said, well, that's not right. And then Souza was doing it. I said, well, that's 2 games in a row. They're getting it wrong, what we think in the same way. I got to double check that. And it turns out, they have changed it in the notes. Tom Gilbert, the SID for basketball over there, men's basketball at K-State's changed it in the notes. So
speaking of people that played last night, David Castillo. He got back on the floor.
He did. Yeah, he was able to play. He didn't play much on Saturday, but he got back out there. Didn't play a ton. They rode the veteran guards in the second half. They played Hassan a lot. They had been eaten into some of Hassan's minutes, but the Armadillo Assassin was on fire. He couldn't take him off the court.
I hope he changes his nickname to that.
We will take a quick time out here on 580 Sports Talk. Paul in the YouTube comment says K-State should employ an assassin in an armadillo costume for the showdown. I hope so. Lean all the way in. Have some fun with it. Tim Fitzgerald will join us. We'll lean in with Fitz. But first, we got What Is Wrong With You next on 580 Sports Talk. It is time for What is Wrong with You here on 580 Sports Talk. Two news stories competing today. Our winner from yesterday, a Wingstop two-piece with ranch and a side of hot grease. The 19-year-old Wingstop manager who threw ranch and then later hot grease on patrons who were causing a ruckus at the Wingstop. What is Wrong with You? Sponsored by our pal Ryan Mo Winkle. He's a big fan of the show, big fan of sports. He'd be a big fan of you if you would check out his website, ryanmowinkle.com. See what Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services can do for you. First story, Spencer, give it to me.
Yeah, a State Farm agent, Ryan Mo Winkle. By the way, my first story here: Florida man is accused of stealing dealership car in Vero Beach after he was denied a loaner car because he, quote, spent his last $50 on the Uber there. On November 6th, deputies say Jason Vincent Varsigo arrived at Route 60 Hyundai in Vero Beach in an Uber to finance a new vehicle. There we go. Sorry, I have the read more tab.
Yeah, you got to hit the read more. Yeah.
I was like, where are we here? When the dealership employees declined to finance the 2024 Hyundai Tucson, deputies say he became very angry and decided to leave the lot in the Tucson when he found it with the keys in the ignition because, quote, he spent his last $50 on the Uber there. Employees told police that the car had a GPS locator, which deputies say they tracked to a home in Florida that matched the home address on the finance application. The vehicle was eventually located the following day at an abandoned restaurant by Melbourne police, according to the criminal probable cause affidavit. After multiple attempts on January 22nd, Indian River County deputies say they made contact with him at his mother's home where he resided. He admitted to the police that the dealership had told him that he would qualify, but denied his car loan, which made him angry. He then told IRCSO that he didn't know how to get home because he was out of funds, so he stole the vehicle. He told police that mental illness was likely contributing to this crime. Deputies found probable cause to book him on felony count of vehicle theft.
He could have called his mother if he lives with his mom.
Yeah.
Hey, mom, I need a ride home from the dealership. They denied me a car loan. No, instead he'll just steal it and create more problems for himself. Yeah. Not real smart there. Second story today on What is Wrong with You, sponsored by Ryan Mo Winkle. We go to Wilkes-Barre Township in Pennsylvania, and we meet 45-year-old Brandon Lee Frisbee, who had himself a night at an establishment known as Dream Girls. And yes, it is what you would guess that it is. Police responded to an intoxicated and disorderly patron identified as Frisbee. About 1:30 a.m., he was encountered by police in the parking lot of Dream Girls, showed signs of intoxication, was arrested for public drunkenness and disorderly conduct. After a struggle to get Frisbee in the rear seat of a cruiser, Frisbee placed his head through a sliding plexiglass partition and began shouting. Fearing he may force his body through the opening, a police officer attempted to push him back onto the rear seat. Frisbee responded by biting the officer's thumb and leaning all his body weight back onto the rear seat, causing more pain to the officer. I'll say he tried to bite the dude's thumb off. Another officer used necessary force and stunned Frisbee with a taser to get him to release the bite. The officer was transported to a local medical center. Frisbee was arraigned on charges of aggravated assault, terroristic threats, simple assault, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, harassment, and public drunkenness. Got a little too turnt strip club, tried to bite off a cop's thumb. That's really what that one comes down to. All right,
Yeah.
who wins today?
I think yours wins.
Oh, okay. We'll go with our guy, the Frisbee, but I don't think it beats.
No.
Do not think it beats the Wingstop stories. That's going to be a tough one to top.
Yeah.
Wingstop two-piece with a ranch and the side of a hot grease. We'll continue on as our winner. What is wrong with you? Once again, sponsored by our guy Ryan Mo Winkle, State Farm agent, Mo Winkle Insurance and Financial Services. Visit his website, ryanmowinkle.com. That's MOHWINKLE, ryanmowinkle.com. Tim Fitzgerald going to join us next for the Wildcat Wrap-Up on 580 Sports Talk.
saw improvement after using Blue Emu. Whether you're working hard, playing harder, or just staying active, Blue Emu penetrates deep to relieve joint and muscle pain fast. And best of all, you won't stink. Join the 91% who felt the difference. Find Blue Emu at your local retailer or online. Blue Emu works fast and you won't stink.
WIBW Topeka.
Timber! Fitzgerald, it's insane!
It's a great day to be a Wildcat.
I felt like that would be a bad idea to be all sticky. I'm not
We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by the great Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com. He and his staff do yeoman's work covering the Cats, and you should be a VIP subscriber to 24/7 Sports so you can have access to all of it. Fitz joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Wednesday at this time for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz, is Brendan Housen unusually cruel to armadillos, or is he an armadillo who is an assassin? How do you interpret the new nickname for K-State's junior sharpshooter?
Oh my goodness! When he did it the first time, I'm like, okay, it just happens, right? You said one thing and something, but he kept saying it, and I'm like, he really thinks he's not the Amarillo assassin; he's the armadillo assassin, which I feel bad for him because his nickname just changed, because that's a great nickname. I don't even know what it means. I don't know if he's out there dressed as an armadillo killing people or killing armadillos. I don't care. It's just an awesome nickname.
There are going to be some armadillos at Bramlage Coliseum on Saturday. I can almost guarantee in some form or fashion we are going to see some armadillos, and whether they are dead ones or ones with guns, I guess will be up to the user's imagination.
Yep, exactly.
Tim Fitzgerald joining us for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. 4 wins in a row for the Cats, including back-to-back road wins after they hadn't won on the road in a calendar year. There are a lot of things that are different. What's the most obvious different thing right now for this Wildcat team that has enabled this run of success?
They've been defending better. They didn't defend as well last night as they have been, but they've been turning defense into offense, and that's been a big change. And with that offense, they get the ball off a turnover or a missed shot, and they run. And they've been attacking the rim out of that, been attacking the rim even more on the half court. It's interesting because this all happened right after you asked me about what are their identities on either end of the floor. And they didn't have one, and now they do. They've decided that this is how they're going to play. They're going to play fast. And try to break down defenses to open up three-point shots. And most of all, they're rebounding so much better and defending. They don't even look like the same team in those two categories, rebounding and defending.
You had mentioned when we talked to you last week, Fitz, that Jerome Tang kind of had to admit defeat a little bit when it came to how he was approaching things with Doug McDaniel. And McDaniel's run of play of late has been a big part of this winning streak. He has become like the kind of point guard, played like the point guard that you need to have to make everything work on the offensive end in the constraints of what K-State is trying to do. What do you think that relationship is now? Because I remember it was the end of the Iowa State game, and we saw him Tang give Doug a hug by the sideline as the game was wrapping up. What do you think the terms of that relationship are right now with head coach and point guard?
Well, it's really interesting. He was on the postgame show last night, Doug McDaniel, after Coach Tang had done his segment. McDaniel sat down with Wyatt Thompson and talked to him, and he talked about the relationship has kind of evolved into a father-son type of relationship, that they're finally found a way to connect. And that's fascinating to me because they were not connecting at all. And they're now on the same page. I think we're seeing the benefits of Doug being on the same page as the head coach, and it's turned out to be really good for the entire team. And I think Doug McDaniel's been playing really good basketball over this 4-game stretch.
Our guest is Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-Up here on 580 Sports Talk. It seems like the starting five has sort of forged their identities and all kind of fitting into the roles that they need to fit into to complement each other. And now we're starting to see the reserves do the same. And one guy who's really finding his role as guy who jumps super high all the time is Moby Ike-Garuke. I've done a 180 on Moby. I wasn't sure what he was out there really doing, but he had earned his playing time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been out there. And now we're starting to see a little bit of proof of concept of what you can do with that athleticism. And his minutes have been good minutes the last couple of games on the road for K-State.
Heck, he was on the floor in the last minute. They put him out there to help rebound and defend. And, yeah, you can't coach that athleticism. Is he going to make mistakes? Yeah, because he's still learning the game. But, boy, he's been really effective at kind of raising the energy level on the court for K-State. And he's being rewarded with more playing time because they've kind of got this down to about 8 guys, maybe 9 that they're going to play most of the time. And but they're leaning really hard on that core of, 6 guys, adding in C.J. Jones into the starters, and then the others just kind of supplement. But they've all found their roles. They know what they're doing, and he's the energy guy, and he does it brilliantly.
The Sunflower Showdown is next on Saturday at Bramlage. K-State came away from the first meeting with the Jayhawks this season feeling like if they hadn't started so slowly, they would have had a chance to walk out of Allen Fieldhouse with a win. They went down 14-0 in the first 4 minutes, ended up losing by 10, but they made it a 2-possession game by the under 4 media timeout. What has to change for K-State in this second meeting? What can they do differently? What can the home crowd maybe offer them in the way of energy that might allow them to win a third straight home meeting with the Jayhawks?
Yeah, they just need to be aggressive, and they weren't aggressive to start that game. They weren't aggressive last night starting the game. They got down 15-0 last night, 15-0, and they ended up leading at half, let alone winning. So it's just kind of been a situation where this group hasn't always played complete games. They came pretty close to doing that at Iowa State, but they certainly didn't last night. And even after they got ahead by, I think, 13 in the second half, which is just amazing to fall behind 15-0 and then lead by 13 in the same game, they squandered that by getting casual again. So you just, in these type of environments against these type of teams, you can't have those mental lapses. You've got to be good all 40 minutes and totally locked in. And if they can do that, they can play. If they don't do that, they're going to handcuff themselves and carry another loss, because you can make up 15 points against Arizona State. It's almost impossible to make up that amount against the University of Kansas.
Bramlage will be turned up for the showdown. It always is. There's no question about it. It's an afternoon tip, which I think the last couple have been nighttime games. So being an afternoon game is a switch up, but the place will be jumping. There's no question. It always is when KU comes to town. But we talked earlier this year about the way that K-State started this season being so deflating to this fan base. Do you sense that the fans are maybe starting to enjoy what they're seeing from the Tang Gang again, or are there still a bunch of Randy Quaids from Major League Two with their hats still turned inside out and their shirts still on backwards?
There probably are, but the good news is the students have, during the worst of it, the students weren't here. So they came back and they started playing some better basketball and winning, and the students will be very loud on Saturday. I'm confident of that. But I think more and more fans are buying in and beginning to see what this team could have been. And it's taken them a while to put it together. They got a lot of work to do to get to the NCAA tournament, and that includes in these next 2 games with KU and Arizona. You better win at least one, but if you're serious about making this miraculous run to the tournament, you better win too.
Our guest is Tim Fitzgerald, GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. This is the Wildcat Wrap-Up on 580 Sports Talk. Shifting real quickly over to the big game at Bramlage tonight, big women's game between K-State and TCU, number 12 against number 9. GA tickets are sold out. They were sold out a few days ago, in fact, so expecting a really good crowd, a great atmosphere for this one, similar to what it was on Thursday when Iowa State came to town. K-State winning that game, winning the showdown on Sunday in Lawrence, all without Ayoka Lee. They'll miss her tonight. TCU's got a great interior presence in Sedona Prince, but what would it mean for K-State to be able to pull out a home win and take down a top 10 team in their house in front of a crowd like this?
I think they'd learn that they're a pretty darn good team even without Ayoka Lee. And I think they started to feel that against Iowa State. They showed it against Kansas. But this is a different thing. This TCU team's really good, and I expect this to be a really amazing game. It'll be close to sold out, and the only problem is we got a little ice down now with this weird weather. But I think people are going to be wanting to be there. This is a really cool thing, and people are going to show up for women's basketball at K-State in a way that they don't show up many places, and it's going to be a fun environment.
Yeah, looking forward to that tonight. You'll catch the game, obviously, right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Pregame starts when we get off the air at 6 o'clock. The tip-off from Bramlage at 6:30. Now shifting, Fitz, to the 2025 football schedule that was released yesterday. The Big 12 dropping their football schedule. K-State, of course, opens in Dublin against Iowa State. 6 home games, season finales against Colorado. The showdown is in Lawrence. That both teams will be off a bye for that game. As you look at this 12-game schedule for K-State for 2025, what stands out to you? What are you excited about?
Well, at least they got some home games in the heart of the season, which they didn't have last year, which was so strange. Now, I think they've got a good schedule, but the great unknown is the back-to-back road games in November to Oklahoma State and then Utah. What version of those teams will we be seeing? Because if it's the good version, that's going to make it really difficult because those 2 games are sandwiched in between playing Kansas and Tech and on the back end closing with Colorado. If those 2 teams are good, that's a gauntlet of 5 games to end the season. And, of course, you start the season with a really good Iowa State team. So it's going to be a fun schedule. I mean, I think this is going to be a fun year of K-State football, but they got a real good opportunity to get off to an amazing start by picking up a conference win on national TV and then, maybe moving on to winning some other big games down the road. But they really do have the ability to get to 7-0 if they win it in Ireland.
Has the fan base rallied behind this opportunity to go to Ireland? What are you hearing? Are ticket sales what people would expect on the K-State side for people getting excited for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see their team play in Ireland? Or is there still a little bit more disappointment that, man, it's cool to play out there, but why'd it have to be Farmageddon?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. But, I think a lot of people also are coming to the reality that it's just expensive. The tickets are expensive, but getting there, staying there, being there is going to be wildly expensive in some cases. And I think that's going to be difficult for a lot of fans. But I think it's just a huge opportunity for the football program to go, do something really cool on a national stage, international stage, may I say. And it's just going to happen. It's one of those things you can't change. You can be unhappy about it, but they're still going to play the game. And they're still going to come back on the 30th and play a home game, and on the 6th and play a home game. And I was really surprised to see that, they still got those 3 non-conference games, including Arizona, lined up right in a row after Iowa State. And there's no break there until after that Arizona State game and starting Big 12 play. So I just thought that was really interesting.
Last thing I'll ask you, Fitz, and I don't know if to what extent you can answer this, but Army comes to Manhattan on the 6th of September. It'll be the first time a service academy comes to Manhattan in 40 seasons. What can you tell us about how that matchup came about?
I honestly don't know. It's been on the books for a while. I would love to play them on a regular basis, but a lot of other people would too. That's the problem. The Army needed a game, and they got their schedule filled with that. I'd love a home and home. I'd love to go cover a game out there, and it's supposed to be a beautiful setting. But this is a cool game. It's going to be sold out. I mean, this is such an incredible crossover between the Kansas State community and the United States Army, in which we basically share a town. And I think it's going to be a really fun environment.
Tim Fitzgerald and his staff cover the Cats like nobody else at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber to get access to all of their information. And Fitz joins us every Wednesday here on 580 Sports Talk for the Wildcat Wrap-Up. Fitz, it is always a pleasure. I will see you Saturday at the Showdown.
Very good. We're at 50% off for a day or so here because it is signing day with Doesn't feel like it.
No, it
is.
doesn't. And we didn't even mention football recruiting. All the business is done, right?
Well, they introduced the offensive transfers today. We get the defensive ones tomorrow. So we're meeting the transfer portal guys instead of what used to be the most important non-game day in college football, and it's now virtually meaningless.
It is strange, but you can read all about that and everything else K-State at GoPowerCat.com. 50% off. Boy, you can't beat that deal. Fitz, we'll see you Saturday.
Thanks, sir.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. We will take another timeout, come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. .455 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero with you, solo dolo the rest of the way. We got one more hour of the show to come. Our thanks to Tim Fitzgerald for joining us to talk Cats. I'm really looking forward to that September football game when Army comes to town. I think it's going to be a really cool atmosphere. I think that's going to be a neat crowd. It's going to be a fun game to watch. You know, I went to, growing up in Denver, about 45 minutes or so from Colorado Springs. My extended family, my dad's side, lives in the Springs, and my dad grew up there. And my grandparents lived and still do just on the opposite side of the I-25 exit from the north gate of the Air Force Academy. So I've gotten a chance to see some Service Academy games and see what that atmosphere is like. And I'm sure some of that will be brought to Bill Snyder Family Stadium on the 6th of September. That's going to be one I don't want to miss. That's one I'm going to make sure that I get a chance to be at. As Texter points out in 785, maybe they'll make that Fort Riley Day. That would make all the sense in the world to do Fort Riley Day on that same day. That'd be a really cool day out at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. Coming up in the final hour of the show, which Chiefs can help themselves not just in terms of their legacy, but in terms of their wallets, their pocketbooks, their savings accounts, with a solid performance, maybe a game-winning performance on Sunday in Super Bowl 59. We'll talk about that. We will preview a little bit tonight's K-State women's basketball game, Cats and Horned Frogs tonight, number 12 hosting number 9 at Bramlage Coliseum. But we will start the hour, as we always do, with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Text the show, 785-272-9429. Come on back after a break and the local news. We got one more hour of 580 Sports Talk together. Let's get it. Third and final hour of 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday afternoon. It's been a cold and gray and drizzly one here in the capital city. It means it's slick out on the roads. Be careful if you're maybe making your commute home at this hour. Thanks for being with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. Special hello to those of you watching on our live video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. My name is Dan Lucero, and I am flying the plane by myself for the final hour of the show today. Spencer Dupuis had to take an early powder. Brendan Dworzynski is off this week. Appreciate you being with us. We've still got one more hour of show today and lots to talk about. Going to dive into which Chiefs can bolster their legacies and the dollar figures of their next contracts with standout performances in Super Bowl 59. Also going to get into some K-State women's hoops. They've got a monster game tonight against TCU. That is going to tip off at 6:30. And you can hear it right here on your home for the Wildcats, the K-State Sports Network, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Pre-game coverage will start when I'm done. We're done here at 6. We go right to the K-State Sports Network, 30-minute pregame, tip-off at 6:30 from the Octagon. Should be a great crowd. I was talking about it with Tim Fitzgerald earlier, our Wildcat Wrap-Up. And he mentioned that even with the weather and the road conditions not being ideal, should still be a really good crowd. General admission tickets were sold out earlier this week. So a lot of people clamoring to get in. I bet the student turnout is really good. They had a great crowd for Iowa State last Thursday, and I expect this crowd will be even better as the purple-clad denizens of Bramlage Coliseum try to inspire the Midi Cats on to a big win over the number 9 team in the country. So get to that as well. We've got 580 Sports Talk headlines, of course, to get to. If you missed my conversation with Tim Fitzgerald or anything else we've done first 2 hours of today's show or in any show prior for, well, the archives go back a ways. You can find our podcast in audio form on our website, 580WIBW.com. You can also find us on Spotify at 580 Sports Talk. Just search 580 Sports Talk. We come up. And you can catch hour-by-hour breakdowns of the show. Our only ask, if you do listen to us on Spotify, and we appreciate those of you who do, why don't you follow the show on Spotify and also leave us a nice rating and review. Those help a lot. Leave us a little 5-star review and tell the people that might be browsing Spotify looking for something to listen to. Tell them that 580 Sports Talk changed your life. Maybe that's going too far, but you get the idea. Just, 5-star reviews, say some nice things, get it up on Spotify. Again, you can find our show podcast each day, hour-by-hour breakdowns. Hour 2 of today's show is already there. We finished it 9 minutes ago. It's already there. 580 Sports Talk on Spotify, or if you just prefer to listen through your web browser, 580WIBW.com is just fine. Also, the video archive is up on our YouTube page. 580 Sports Talk is the channel. Remember, subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. I know it sounds like we're asking a lot of you. We're really not. Like a push of the button, a tap of your thumb. You spend your whole day with your phone in front of you, tapping and scrolling and swiping, or asking for just a couple of more of those taps for us, if you can spare them. So subscribe to the YouTube channel today. If we get to 800 subscribers, when we get to 800 subscribers, remember, Brendan Dworzynski and I are going to arm wrestle on camera for everyone to watch. I might even roll up my sleeve, give you a real gun show when we get around to it. So subscribe to the YouTube 580 Sports Talk. You can find us on social media as well. We are on X, 580 Sports Talk. We are on Blue Sky, along with 30 million other users. Our Blue Sky handle is the same, 580 Sports Talk. I am posting there. Brendan and Spencer are over at Blue Sky. Brendan and Spencer remain over at X, the Everything app. Everything happens on X. So there are lots of ways that you can interact with us throughout the show. You can interact with us on the show live by texting the program, 785-272-9429. You can also get at us in the YouTube live chat if you are watching on 580 Sports Talk on the YouTube channel. And if there's interest in it later on, maybe I'll do a little brief Ask Me Anything. I haven't done that in a long time. I know Brendan did one a couple of weeks ago. Spencer is good for one of those every now and again. I haven't done one in forever. So maybe I'll give you a chance to send some questions in, and we'll do an Ask Me Anything coming up later on in this 5 o'clock hour. But I want to begin with our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and let's start with some practice injury reports for Super Bowl 59. We don't have one from the Chiefs yet, but we do have one from the Eagles, their injury report. Now, this is the real deal. There were both teams practicing today, and it's a game week. So unlike last week when the injury reports were approximations, this is really what's happening. There was practice today, and guys were either in it, they were limited, or they did not practice. The Chiefs one, when we do see it, is going to be really short. We know that. Andy Reid telling the media earlier today that there are no new injuries. There's nothing new to report. They had a really short projected injury report last week. I don't expect it to be a very long one, if there even is one at all. The Eagles have 4 players listed as limited practice participants on their Wednesday injury report. They are wide receiver Devontae Smith, dealing with a hamstring. Defensive end Brandon Graham, who's been on IR, hasn't played since November. He's coming back from an elbow injury, and there is a chance that he would be activated for Super Bowl 59, but he hasn't been activated yet. He's still in his return to practice window. He was limited today. Backup running back Kenny Gainwell with a concussion and a knee problem, limited. And Jalen Carter, the world-destroying defensive tackle for the Eagles, was dealing with an illness today, and it must have cropped up during practice because he is listed as limited, but the illness was such that Carter missed his media availability earlier today, and that's why a word of his midweek sickness got around. So those are the 4 listed as limited for the Eagles. The list of full participants is good news for Philadelphia, as both starting left guard Landon Dickerson and starting center Cam Jurgens were full participants. Dickerson with a knee injury, Jurgens with a back injury. If you remember in the NFC Championship game, Jurgens was a late scratch with a back injury, but he wasn't deactivated. They moved Dickerson over to center. He was struggling with a knee issue, so Jurgens had to come into the game despite being injured and finish things out. But both of those stalwart linemen on what might be the NFL's best offensive line were full participants in practice today. So, too, was tight end Dallas Goedert with an ankle injury. Linebacker Zach Baun, who didn't pop up on the projected injury report last week. He's on today's report with a groin injury, but he was a full participant. So were tight end CJ Uzama with an abdomen injury and wide receiver Britton Covey with a neck injury. Covey still on the IR, so his 21-day window is still open, but the fact that he's a full participant suggests that he may be able to be activated to the 53-man roster. More of a special teams player, Covey, particularly in the return game for the Eagles. So that is the Philadelphia injury report. We do not have one for the Chiefs. It is not on their social media. It is checking their PR department on X. It's not there. Matt McMullen might usually put one out. Matt McMullen, the senior Chiefs team reporter. He does not have one yet. But again, Andy Reid said this morning there were no injuries to report. So anything that would be a surprise to anyone would have had to have happened at practice today. So looking like good news, looking like a healthy Chiefs team going into Super Bowl Sunday. Next headline, the NFLPA, the Players Association, held their yearly Super Bowl press conference, State of the Union, if you will, address from their executive director, Lloyd Howell Jr., and it sounds for the moment like the Players Association is drawing a hard line in the sand against playing an 18th regular season game. Roger Goodell, in his State of the League press conference earlier this week, made the frankly laughable claim that it would be okay to expand to 18 games in the regular season because of the safety of the game. citing safety data that put concussions at a historically low level during the 2024 season. And while that is unquestionably and irrefutably good news that we have seen a decrease in concussions, that still means we have seen concussions. There is no way to make a safer cigarette, and there is no way to make a safer football. So Lloyd Howell Jr. pushed back against that in his press conference today, saying, quote, frankly, we're not sure how he's, meaning Goodell, reaching that conclusion based on the data we've been given access to. Howell would go on to say, rather unambiguously, quote, no one wants to play an 18th game. No one. 17 games is already, for many of the guys, too long. 17 games is also so lengthy that you're still dealing with injuries going into the next season. So there are a variety of issues that hang off of the length of the season before any formal negotiations. The current collective bargaining agreement expires after the 2030 season. And if they were to make any alterations to that before then, like extending the season to an 18th game, it would have to be voted on and agreed to by both the owners and the players. Howell would go on to say this, and I think this is a really good point talking about the 18 games. It's also the reason the league wants 18 games. Quote, when you talk about 18 games, what does the international composition look like and where? There's evidence that they would like to go as far away as Australia, the Middle East, India, you name it. They truly want to look at the international aspect of the game. So how does that fit into 18 games? I understand the union's position. I support, frankly, the union's position. I think 17 games is too long. I don't think there's anything wrong with 16. I think that, like all professional sports leagues, you would probably see an improved product if you cut a little bit off the end of the schedule. Like Major League Baseball could be 150 games and you wouldn't miss that extra 12. The NBA season could be like 65 games and you wouldn't miss that other 17. Same with the NHL. And the NFL season could probably go back to being 14 games. Honestly, it could. Fewer injuries, better product, more healthy players for the playoffs, more scarcity. Scarcity is always good for the viewership of your product, the interest in your product. But we're never going backwards. That's never happening because the owners would have to take less revenue and the players would have to take less revenue. And there's understanding of that across the board. So we're never going back. It's going to be 17 or it's going to be 18. Ain't never going to be 16 again. And part of the plan is, well, we'll cut off a preseason game and we'll give you an extra regular season game in exchange. We won't make you play a third preseason game. I know as fans, we kind of grumble about the preseason, but the preseason serves a purpose. I think a valuable one in some respects. The preseason serves a purpose for teams, for young players trying to stick and show that they belong in the NFL. And I think the star players in the league certainly will look at it as, so, okay, we're trading a game that's kind of a laissez-faire deal for us that we don't normally play in for a game that's super competitive that we have to play in and take a bunch more hits in. Trading a fake game for a real game isn't that great a trade from that particular perspective. But it also surprised me to hear the NFLPA director referring to games in the Middle East, games in India. That's new. I didn't know the NFL was gaining such traction in India. It might be imaginary, it might be a figment of Roger Goodell's imagination, but Australia would make a lot of sense. I think they're going to Melbourne. I think that's already in stone, an NFL game in Australia in 2026. Yeah, they've announced that. In fact, that might be breaking news today. Yeah. Well, shoot. Next headline. NFL's going to Australia. How about that? I had seen rumblings of this yesterday, and I was checking to see if it had been made official, and it turns out it was made official today. The Los Angeles Rams will host a game in Australia during the 2026 season. The game will be played at the iconic Melbourne Cricket Ground and will be the first ever NFL game played in Australia. The opponents, date, and kickoff time will all be announced at a later date. That'll be pretty cool. The Melbourne Cricket Ground is huge, just big oval, Going to be interesting seating arrangements for that. It seats over 100,000. That's going to be a monster crowd for that game in Melbourne because they'll fill every seat. Australia is one of the 6 international home marketing areas for the Rams. You know how the Chiefs have like Germany and I think Switzerland and some other places, Mexico maybe. The Rams have Australia. It will be one of these teams that plays the Rams. They'll play 9 home games that season. They're scheduled, obviously, divisional games against the Seahawks, 49ers, and Cardinals, the Cowboys, the Giants, whoever finishes in the same place as them as the NFC North and the AFC East. Also, the Chargers and, oh, would you look at that? The Kansas City Chiefs are scheduled to travel to Los Angeles to play the Rams in 2026. Wonder if Roger Goodell might want to send the Chiefs out to Melbourne. That's fun to watch for 2026 for sure. As that was announced today, the Rams will be hosting a game in Australia. First NFL game, regular season game in Australia coming up in 2026. One more headline. Let's keep it local with this one. It was National Signing Day today, and if you missed it, it's because the National Signing Day doesn't mean what it used to mean. We were talking about this with Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com. This used to be, outside of a game day, the biggest day on the college football calendar. National Signing Day. And now it doesn't mean anything because all of the big business gets done by early signing day. There's a player or two that might commit. There was a 5-star offensive lineman that held his commitment until today and ended up committing to Michigan. And KU got a high school kid recruit that they announced today, Drayden Punt, a young man who's a tight end / defensive end prospect from Iowa. Yes, a young man from Iowa with the last name Punt is not only A, not a punter, but B, not going to play for Kirk Ferentz. The first ever Iowa punt that Kirk Ferentz wasn't interested in. Amazing. Anyhow, so National Signing Day for the big boys doesn't register the way it used to. But at lower levels of college football, National Signing Day is still the day when you stand by the fax machine and you wait for your national letters of intent to come in and you celebrate the recruiting class. And so it's a big day on the MIAA calendar still, as Washburn and Emporia State, Pitt State, all of those schools in the MIAA were able to announce their signing classes today. Included in the Washburn football signing class were some local talents. Parker Busenitz was a 3-year letter winner at Shawnee Heights and was second-team All-City as a senior. His older brother, Orrin, is also currently on the Washburn football team. Also, King Leonard from Washburn Rural, who was All-State honorable mention, first-team All-County, first-team All-League at safety, also currently starting on the basketball court for the Junior Blues, committing to Washburn. Outstanding wide receiver out of Topeka High, Jaden Norman, is an Ichabod signee. He was All-State honorable mention, first-team All-Centennial League for the last 2 years as a junior, and as a sophomore led 6A in receiving yards. So a very talented 6'2" wide receiver that I think you're going to be hearing a lot from in his Washburn career. And also, of course, the mid-year transfers were announced, and it was made official that Kai Thomas, the grad transfer from Kent State, will suit up for the Ichabod just like his father did. The former Minnesota Golden Gopher, Kansas Jayhawk, and Kent State Golden Flash will suit up at running back for the Ichabods. Other signees from the state of Kansas: linebacker Caleb Dewey out of Gardner Edgerton, linebacker Aiden Dreiling from St. James Academy. Gabe Spees, another linebacker. He's from St. Thomas Aquinas. TJ Wesley, an offensive lineman out of Pittsburgh, and a transfer from Butler Community College via Atchison High School, kicker Aiden Battle, also committing to Zach Watkins's Washburn program. So congratulations to all of those young men, everybody else who got that letter of intent signed and committed today. Again, it's not the day that it used to be on the major college football calendar. But at other levels of college football, this is still a big day. It's a big day for those young men to commit their futures to their college football program and their school of choice. So a salute to all of them, the local youngsters, the Kansas kids, and all others who signed today on National Signing Day. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, who benefits the most from a Chiefs win? Other than like you, the fan. Who benefits the most from a Chiefs win? Other than you, the bettor. Which players benefit the most with a good performance on Sunday in New Orleans? We'll talk about that next. Hour number 3 rolls on 580 Sports Talk. .530 and 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero chilling with you. We got another half hour here on the program today. Appreciate you being along. Like I said, get your questions in for me. We'll do a little Ask Me Anything to round out the show. 785-272-9429, the text line. You can also leave a question in the live chat on YouTube, and I will answer it. People are still talking about the armadillo assassin thing from last night's K-State game where Pete Souza kept trying to refer to Brendan Hawson by his nickname, the Amarillo assassin, but said armadillo assassin like 5 or 6 times before finally getting it right as the broadcast was ending. Truly one of the funniest things ever. And I really look forward to seeing what the students at Bramlage, the fans at Bramlage, come up with to nod to Hawson's new, much cooler nickname at the Sunflower Showdown on Saturday afternoon. Barbara in the YouTube comments jumping in saying that armadillos are now making their homes in Kansas, which I did not realize. Except I do remember when I lived in Wichita, I am pretty sure I saw one afternoon. I was driving on, I don't even know, K something, whatever, K96, whatever road it is to get you out to Derby. Okay, that's what I was driving. I was driving whatever road it is down there in Wichita to get you out to Derby. I don't remember, K96, something like that. And I was driving, and I looked to my right, and on the shoulder, I was like, is that an armadillo? Is that what that is? Because, I've not really seen one in person before. They don't really hang out in, like, Colorado or any other states where I've lived. And I swear it was an armadillo. So maybe they've been hanging around like the last decade or so in Kansas. And we're just now realizing that. So anyway, the armadillo assassin, Brendan Hawson. I'll be laughing about that for a while. That was truly great. Maybe I'm too hard on Pete Souza. Maybe he accidentally on purpose came up with like the coolest nickname ever for the kid. And I should give him some credit for that. Chiefs Eagles on Sunday. We're 4 days away from Super Bowl Sunday. Of course, radio coverage here on 580 WIBW FM 104.9 begins at 1 o'clock on Sunday with pregame coverage from Westwood One leading up to the 5:30-ish kickoff from the Superdome in New Orleans. We will have the Westwood One broadcast with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner in the booth. We are unable, due to NFL contractual regulations, to carry the Chiefs Radio Network broadcast outside of the home market, as we are not the flagship station. So we must, by the rules, carry the Westwood One broadcast. But it's going to be a great broadcast with Kevin Harlan and Kurt Warner in the booth. They do a great job. You know how we feel about Kevin Harlan around here. After the game is over, following the trophy presentation, we will send it to the Chiefs Radio Network for post-game. We will pick up post-game coverage with the crew. And again, like for the AFC Championship game, we hope it's a good time and not a good time. Hope for some fun on the Chiefs Radio Network post-game coming up on Sunday. Obviously, there's so much at stake in every Super Bowl, and we did a little bit of legacy talk earlier. I made the argument in the first hour. I think a Super Bowl win makes Andy Reid the greatest NFL coach of all time. I do. I think he surpasses Belichick, at least in the Super Bowl era. Like, I get if you want to say, no, actually, it was Vince Lombardi. Like, if you want to make that argument, I will respect that argument. I think the modern game is a little different than the era Vince Lombardi was coaching in. And I think it's a little tougher to build a consistent winner in the free agent salary cap era than it was back when, you went to Green Bay because Vince Lombardi was the coach. And they paid you $10, $15 an hour plus tips, and you worked at the box factory in the offseason. But you were proud to be a Packer. Different era, different time. I think a win makes Andy Reid the greatest coach of all time. I do. I think he surpasses Belichick. And in the Super Bowl era, at the very least, I think Andy Reid will stand alone, stand at the top. Other people have made the argument, I want to say it was at The Athletic today, making the argument that, well, if Mahomes wins, he surpasses Brady. I've already got Mahomes ahead of Brady. I'm sorry. Like, Mahomes, Brady was great. Brady's number 2 on my list. Mahomes is winning like Brady and also playing the position better than Brady ever did. I've never seen Brady do some of the things that Mahomes did. So for me, Mahomes is already there. Travis Kelce could certainly bolster his case to be the greatest tight end of all time with another Super Bowl ring, especially if it comes with a signature playoff Trav performance. Chris Jones and Joe Thuney would add to their 4 consideration reels for Canton and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think Chris Jones is a slam dunk. I was saying that before this season. Joe Thuney, I think, it is too. And now I think Thuney has another chapter to his story, willing to shift off his natural position, which not an easy thing to do. We cannot understate just how difficult it is to do what Joe Thuney has done. Never mind to do it well, to do it at all. And the fact that he's done it at a championship level for this Chiefs team down the stretch and changed the way the Chiefs offense can operate and changed the way that Mahomes can operate. You can't say enough about it. So I think this is part of the Joe Thuney lore, if you will, particularly if they go on and win the Super Bowl. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's got, fistfuls of rings, all pro nods. I think Joe Thuney it's hard for guards to get into the Hall of Fame. It's not a sexy position, but Joe Thuney's going to have a bust made of him someday. But what about guys who maybe stand to, if not bolster their legacy, bolster their checking accounts with good performances on Sunday? We were talking about this earlier in the week. Spencer brought up Mike Caliendo being a free agent could get like the Andrew Wiley bump with a good performance, and he didn't have his hands full. Milton Williams and Jalen Carter are no joke. The Chiefs need Nick Allegretti, not Nick Allegretti. Yeah, he was another one that got a Super Bowl bump, but and got a nice check, just like Andrew Wiley from Washington following a Super Bowl win. Mike Caliendo facing off against Milton Williams, he holds his own in that matchup, and he's going to have to. That could see him get a nice little piece of change from a team, particularly if the Chiefs are going to move forward next year with Thuney back at left guard and another solution at left tackle. Trey Smith is the other guard, of course, and everybody already expects him to reset the guard market. But if he wins the matchup against Jalen Carter in a noticeable way, which is something that right guards aren't doing. And yes, Jalen Carter's going to line up over Trey Smith. Like, they don't move him around. It's not like Chris Jones where they line him up all over the place. They pick a matchup. Jalen Carter lines up over the right guard almost exclusively. So it's going to be Jalen Carter and Trey Smith, big meaty men slapping meat for 60 minutes. If Trey Smith wins that matchup, not only is he going to reset the guard market, like, he might get tackle money as a guard. He really might. He's going to be able to request whatever he wants in free agency. The Bears might just hand him a blank check at that point. I would say that Nick Bolton would help himself in the free agent market with a strong performance. Like, if he, racks up a bunch of tackles, is a part of the defensive effort that limits Saquon Barkley, or at least limits his explosive plays. I would say that, hey, that could help Nick Bolton if he gets to market and decides he wants, star linebacker money. But then I saw where earlier this week, Steve Spagnuolo referred to Nick Bolton as the Patrick Mahomes of the defense. And if you had any doubt in your mind that Nick Bolton was going to wear a Chiefs uniform moving forward, that should have dispelled it. Known for a long time that Spags and the entire Chiefs coaching staff was fond of Nick Bolton, but that really highlights just how fond. They wouldn't let Patrick Mahomes go. Why would they let the defense Patrick Mahomes go? Patrick Mahomes on defense. If that's how they think of Nick Bolton, why would they let him go? They're going to sign him. They're going to pay him whatever he asks for, essentially. No question. And I've kind of always felt that way, because I have thought that they viewed him as indispensable. And now we have verbal confirmation of that. And I do think that if we're talking about Nick Bolton on Monday, I guess that could go one of two ways. We could be talking about Nick Bolton. Oh, man, he missed a bunch of tackles. That was weird. Saquon Barkley had 250 rushing yards. I don't think that's going to happen. If we're talking about Nick Bolton, it's going to be Nick Bolton made like a splashy play. Nick Bolton made a big third or fourth down stop. Nick Bolton helped to tackle Saquon before he could get into the open field and bust what would have been like a 70-yard touchdown run. Maybe Nick Bolton scores another touchdown like he did against the Eagles in Super Bowl 57. But Nick Bolton, he's going to stay a Chief. I think that is, I am extremely certain that will be the case. Two other guys, Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis. I think the Chiefs would like to keep them both long-term. They are both extension eligible this coming season, or after this season, so going into next year. Strong finish to the year for George. He's been great in the playoffs. Maybe he becomes the player that the Chiefs are more urgent about trying to extend. If I had to guess, one of the two gets an extension done before they hit free agency, I would say McDuffie, no question. But Karlaftis could certainly put his name in that conversation if he has another big performance. He's been excellent down the stretch and in the playoffs. Big part of that is he's had Charles Omenihu lining up next to him or on the other side, and that's enabled him to do some damage in one-on-ones. He'll have a tough draw against Jordan Mailata on Sunday as well, but a good performance for Karlaftis could see his pocketbook fatten a bit little earlier maybe than he expected. We'll take a time out here at 580 Sports Talk. Come back, talk a little K-State women's hoops, and I'll answer your questions. Send them in. 785-272-9429 in the YouTube live chat, 580 Sports Talk. This is 580 Sports Talk. Coming up in 16 minutes here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9, pregame coverage from Bramlage Coliseum of a clash of titans in Big 12 women's basketball. Number 12, Kansas State. Number 9, TCU at the Octagon tonight. Matt Walters will have the call. 6:30 tip-off. Again, here on your home for the Cats on the K-State Sports Network, 580 WIBW FM 104.9. This will be a game where K-State really misses Aoka Lee. TCU's got a beast in the post. Sedona Prince averages about 18.5 points, 9 boards a game. And they've also got one of the nation's best lead guards in Haley Van Lith, the Louisville/LSU transfer. She's also averaging about 18 points a game. The advantage that K-State does have in this game is depth. They don't have a lot of girls who play 30-plus minutes like Prince and Van Lith do. So I kind of expect K-State and Jeff Minnie to try to come at those two in waves, really throw Kennedy Taylor, Eliza Maupin, Amani Lester at Sedona Prince. They got 15 fouls to give, right? But try and be physical with her. Try and run defenders. I imagine it'll be Serena Sundell who draws the initial assignment on Haley Van Lith, but throw some different defenders. Diana Walker, I'm sure, will get a turn. Throw different sets of legs at those two and maybe have fresher legs for the fourth quarter sprint. As long as the game is close, I like K-State's odds in the fourth quarter. I think they'll be on fresher legs. They'll have a sixth man advantage. Should be a great crowd at the Octagon tonight. The Bart Torvik numbers, you got women's basketball numbers too. They got K-State -7 in this game. Torvik really likes K-State. TCU, K-State's 7th in the Torvik, and TCU is 13th. Between that differential and the home court, Torvik says K-State by 7 tonight. So I'll stick with that. I think K-State can win this one. All right. I said I'd do a little Ask Me Anything to wrap up the show today. So get your questions in. You can send me a question, 785-272-9429. 785-272-9429. You can also drop them in the live chat on YouTube if you're watching the YouTube channel right now, 580 Sports Talk, or you can post them on the comments of the Facebook stream as well. It's the same stream. It's just over on Facebook, our page, WIBW News. I'll go text line first. Question from the 316. This is a deep cut because I don't remember saying this on the show at any point today. So this is a longtime listener, and clearly this has bothered them for a while. From the 316. Does everyone from Colorado put an extra R in Notre Dame? And I did it again. That's just always how I've said Notre Dame, and I don't know why. I know it's Notre Dame, but I've always said Notre. I don't know. Some of y'all say Washington or Missouri. I don't understand that. I don't think it's a Colorado thing. It's just how I've always said Notre Dame. No real good explanation for you, but it's not a regional thing. I can assure you of that. Thank you for the question. Questions from the live chat on the YouTube stream. Scrolling for those. Vance asked me, if you could add one rule and delete one rule from the Major League Rule Book, what would they be? Vance, I would delete the designated hitter so fast that your head would spin. It's not real baseball when you have somebody who's not playing a position. Hitter is not a position. If you are a pitcher, you are an athlete, you are a ball player. You should hit for yourself, even if you hit 0-90. Even if you can't get a bunt down to save your life, you're an athlete, you're a ball player. Get back out there and hit. That'd be the one rule I'd get rid of. I mourn the day every day that the designated hitter came to the National League. If you told me that Rob Manfred is responsible for the COVID pandemic lasting long enough and not stopping the spread so that it knocked out half of a baseball season so that he could institute the DH in that 60-game sham of a year they had in 2020 and then can say, well, people liked it, we'll just leave it in. I would believe you. I would believe anything bad you ever told me about Rob Manfred. So that would be the rule I delete. Rule I would add, I would move the mound back a foot. I think that any issues with offense, any issues with pitcher health, any problem anybody has with the games right now, it stems from like the aesthetics of the game. The pitchers are too good. The pitchers are too good. They throw too hard with too much spin. They're too good. They are freaks up and down every pitching staff. Used to be a guy threw 100 mile an hour. He was a marvel. Now teams are just trading out guys who throw 100 miles an hour every 3 weeks from AAA up to the bigs and back down to AAA. Move the mound back a foot. 61 feet, 6 inches. Doesn't sound as good as 60 feet, 6 inches, but I think it would help baseball a lot. Move the mound back a foot. That would be the rule that I would add to the Major League Baseball rule book. Another one from Vance, chili and cinnamon rolls, yes or no? That was something, and I believe I've told this story on the air before. I had never heard of the chili and cinnamon roll phenomenon until I moved to Nebraska, and I came across a little fast food chain known as Runza. And Runza does the chili and cinnamon roll thing, and my first reaction was, ew, gross, get it away from me. That was 16 years ago that I first encountered chili and cinnamon rolls, and I can tell you that my reaction hasn't changed much. Chili, absolutely. Cinnamon rolls, you bet. I'd eat a dozen cinnamon rolls right now if you put them in front of me. Together, that's not necessary. That's just how I feel about it. Like, I like them both. If the flavor profile works for you, more power to you. I find it to be an unnecessary pairing. I would just as soon have a bowl of chili and then for dessert, maybe a cinnamon roll. Or maybe a cinnamon roll in the morning and a bowl of chili at night. I need a separation of the two flavors. I simply do. Mark B, you check me, Mark, and you're right. I hate the California tiebreaker in extra innings in baseball. I hate it with my whole life. I truly do. But I'd rather that rule than the DH. I hate the DH more. Vance's question said I can only get rid of one. So that would be the one that I would get rid of. Text from the 785. So I say, yeah, move the mound back a foot. This text from the 785. Chris Stratton isn't good enough. He should get to move the mound a foot forward. Man, it's 50 days to opening day. We're already dumping on Chris Stratton. I'm excited for the Super Bowl, but then when football is over and we get to talk baseball, I'm extremely excited about that. Last one. This is a good one from Paul. Same question for you. Asked BD this one last week. What is your favorite or the best perk for being a media member, media access? Honestly, it's just getting to be there. Just like getting to be at the game. Like I always turn on the TV and think, man, it'd be really cool to be at that game, or it'd be really cool to see that player or see that team. And I get to do it. I got the golden ticket that gets me into Allen Fieldhouse, like the one of the great venues in American sports. And I get to go just for work. I just go. I can say, yeah, I think I'm going to go cover the Jayhawks tonight and go to Allen Fieldhouse. That's just awesome. It's so cool. I got to go and cover a Final Four. I got to go and cover Major League Baseball playoffs. Just being there, because I've always loved being there. I've always loved the energy of a big game. And that's true. Baseball playoffs, Final Four, regular season Big 12 game, high school game. When there is a big game, there is an energy, there's an electricity in the air, and I just love being in that environment. So that is the true pleasure and privilege of getting to do what we do. That, and every now and again, the media meal is a banger. Oh my God. They had burn ends at the KU Iowa State game on Monday. They had at the showdown at Allen Fieldhouse, they had like a nacho bar, but they had these sopapillas, and I'm telling you, I'm still thinking about those sopapillas 3 weeks later. Like every now and again, that media meal. Derby Dining at K-State, batting 1,000. They've never missed with the media meal in the Dev Nelson press box for K-State football. They've never missed. So I do like to eat. I can't lie. So yeah, the media meal is pretty cool. The halftime dilly bars at KU games. Like there are some fun perks for sure, but just being there is good enough for me a lot of the time. Just to sit in the building or sit in the press box and hear the roar of that crowd and the anticipation before the start of the game. It gives me chills to talk about it. And as long as I get chills doing that, I hope I get to keep doing this. Real quick, before we take our final timeout, a quick word from my friends at Great Life. With 8 fitness facilities and 5 golf courses in the greater Topeka area, there's a Great Life facility near you with outstanding amenities and great golf. Visit greatlifetopeka.com to learn more about becoming a member today. Final word next. Wrapping up and walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. Quick final word for me. K-State basketball has won 4 in a row. They're fun to watch again. And even in a game that was a topsy-turvy, late-night kind of game where you feel more relief that K-State won in the end, still enjoyed it because of the birth of the armadillo assassin, Brendan Hawson. Looks like Hawson and his teammates are willing to have some fun with it. And so just be prepared. If you missed it last night, you missed the game last night, and then you turn on the Sunflower Showdown at Bramlage on Saturday and you see a bunch of people holding stuffed armadillos or armadillo signs in the crowd, you're going to be like, what the hell did I miss? Well, that's what you missed. On a Tuesday night in Tempe, the armadillo assassin. I can't even say it on purpose. The armadillo assassin was born. Thank you, Pete Souza. K-State women's basketball coming up next. We'll be back with you tomorrow from 3 until 6. Until then, for Spencer Dupuis, I'm Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk. Good night.